The pain was a familiar, unwelcome guest. A deep, grinding ache in my lower right abdomen that had been a constant, low-level hum for months. But that Tuesday morning, it wasn't a hum. It was a shriek. A white-hot, stabbing shriek that doubled me over my keyboard, my vision spotting with black dots. I sucked in a ragged breath, pressing a fist into my side. Not today. Please, not today. Today was the day of my third interview for the Director of Operations position. A position I had effectively been performing for 6 months since Old Man Henderson retired. A position that came with a 60% salary increase, stock options, and, most importantly, the authority to finally fix the systemic rot in this company. It was my shot. The culmination of a decade of grinding in the trenches of Ethelred Pharmaceuticals. And Dr. Julian Ethelred, the CEO, my direct boss, and the grandson of the founder, had personally scheduled this final interview for 3 p.m. I stumbled to the private bathroom in my office, splashing cold water on my face. I looked pale, my skin clammy. This was worse than the usual flare-ups. The pain had a new, urgent quality to it, a feeling of something breaking. I had to see a doctor. But I couldn't miss this interview. Julian was a capricious, petty man. Rescheduling was not an option. He'd see it as a lack of commitment, a weakness. I'd seen him pass over more qualified candidates for lesser infractions. I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling, and pulled up the number for my gastroenterologist, Dr. Evans. It was 10 a.m. Maybe, just maybe, I could get an emergency squeeze-in appointment, get some strong painkillers, and be back in time. The receptionist was apologetic. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Thorne. Dr. Evans is fully booked. He has a procedure this afternoon and then he's out of the office for the rest of the day. Please," I begged, my voice tight. "It's an emergency. The pain, it's different. It's worse." "Let me check with the doctor," she said, putting me on hold. I leaned against the cool tile wall, praying. A moment later, she came back on the line. "Dr. Evans can see you at 2:15 p.m. It's the only slot he has. He's squeezing you in between his procedure and his personal plans." 2:15 p.m. It was tight. The doctor's office was a 20-minute drive from the office, without traffic. The interview was at 3 p.m., here in the building. It would be a sprint, but I could make it. I'd have to. "I'll take it," I said, relief washing over me. "Thank you. Thank you so much." I hung up and immediately opened my email. I typed a carefully worded message to Julian. "Julian. A minor, but urgent medical issue has come up. I have secured a doctor's appointment for 2:15 p.m. I will be back in the office, without fail, for our 3 p.m. meeting. I apologize for any inconvenience. Best. Marcus." I stared at the send button. It felt like a confession of guilt. I hated showing any vulnerability to him. But I had no choice. I clicked send. The response was almost instantaneous. My stomach, already in knots, tightened further. "Marcus. 2:15 is cutting it exceptionally fine. This final review is a crucial part of the process. I have a charity dinner tonight that I cannot be late for, and I need to leave promptly at 4:30. Pushing this back is not an option. I expect you to be here, prepared and focused, at 3 p.m. sharp. Do not let personal matters interfere with professional obligations. Julian." The dismissiveness was a physical blow. Personal matters. He'd once postponed a board meeting because his prize Afghan hound had the sniffles. But my searing pain was a personal matter. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. The next few hours were agony. I tried to work, to review my presentation, but the pain was a relentless predator, consuming my focus. By 1:45 p.m., I was drenched in a cold sweat. I drove to Dr. Evans' office, each bump in the road sending a fresh jolt of fire through my abdomen. I was called back right at 2:15 p.m. Dr. Evans, a kind, tired-looking man in his 50s, came in, his expression shifting to one of immediate concern as he looked at me. "Marcus, you look terrible. Lie down." He pressed and prodded my abdomen, his touch gentle but firm. When he pressed on the lower right quadrant, I saw stars, a strangled gasp escaping my lips. "That's McBurney's point," he murmured, his face grim. "Your symptoms, the migration of the pain, the fever. I'm almost certain it's appendicitis. I need you to go to the ER. Right now. Don't go home. Don't stop for anything. Your appendix could rupture." Panic, cold and sharp, joined the pain. "The ER? Doctor, I can't. I have a critically important meeting at 3 p.m. My career, it depends on it." Dr. Evans looked at me with a mixture of pity and firmness. "Marcus, listen to me. If your appendix ruptures, you could develop peritonitis. Sepsis. This is not a negotiation. This is a potential life-or-death situation. Your career won't matter much if you're in the ICU or worse. I'm calling the hospital to tell them you're on your way." The finality in his voice broke through my desperation. He was right. Of course, he was right. Tears of pain and sheer frustration welled in my eyes. I fumbled for my phone. It was 2:48 p.m. I had to call Julian. It went straight to voicemail. I called his executive assistant, Sarah. "Sarah, it's Marcus. I need to speak to Julian, it's an emergency." "I'm sorry, Marcus," she said, her voice sympathetic. "He's in a pre-meeting huddle with the board members who are sitting in on the interview. He's instructed me to hold all calls. Sarah, please. It's a medical emergency. My doctor is sending me to the ER. I can't make the interview." I heard her sharp intake of breath. "Oh, Marcus. Okay. Okay, I'll slip him a note. I'm so sorry." I hung up and let Dr. Evans' nurse help me to my car, instructing me not to drive. I called a cab, the world moving in a nauseating, pain-filled blur. At the ER, everything was a nightmare of bright lights and hurried voices. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Julian. Not a call. A text. "This is profoundly unprofessional, Marcus. I had to dismiss the board members. My entire evening schedule is now in disarray. I expect a full explanation when you are available." I stared at the screen, the cold, clinical words merging with the beeping of the hospital monitors. Profoundly unprofessional. I was being prepped for emergency surgery, and he was worried about his schedule. I didn't have the energy to respond. A nurse took my phone and belongings. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital room, groggy and sore, with a fresh, tender incision on my abdomen. My appendix had been gangrenous, on the verge of rupture. I'd been hours, maybe less, from a catastrophic outcome. My wife, Chloe, was there, holding my hand, her face pale with worry. "You scared me to death," she whispered, kissing my forehead. I spent 2 days in the hospital. I emailed HR and Sarah from my bed, attaching the doctor's note and the surgical report. I received a terse, one-line acknowledgement from HR. Nothing from Julian. When I was finally discharged, weak and moving slowly, I logged into my work email from home. The silence was deafening. Then, I saw it. A company-wide announcement. Subject: New Director of Operations. It is with great pleasure that we announce that Michael Slattery has been promoted to the role of Director of Operations. I read the email 3 times. Michael Slattery. A sycophant with half my experience and a fraction of my competence. A man whose primary qualification was his willingness to laugh at Julian's jokes and join him for his long, liquid lunches. He'd given the job to Slattery. He'd done it while I was in the hospital. A cold, hard knot formed in my gut, right next to the healing wound. He hadn't just passed me over. He'd punished me for getting sick. Chloe found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the screen, my hands clenched into fists. "Baby? What is it?" I just turned the laptop toward her. She read it, her hand flying to her mouth. "Oh, Marcus. No. He didn't." "He did." The rage was a slow, cold burn. It fueled my recovery. I went back to work a week later, the model of professionalism. I congratulated Slattery, a hollow, painful interaction. Julian avoided me. When we did pass in the hall, he offered a curt, dismissive nod. I buried myself in my work, the bitterness a constant companion. And then, a month later, the final, insulting blow landed. It came in the mail. A bill from Dr. Evans' practice. For $250. The reason for the charge was listed in cold, bureaucratic type: missed appointment fee. I stared at it, disbelief turning into a roaring, incandescent fury. He had billed me for the appointment I'd missed because he diagnosed me with a life-threatening condition and sent me to the emergency room. I called the billing department, my voice shaking with anger. There must be a mistake. I was seen by Dr. Evans. He examined me. He's the one who sent me to the hospital. The woman on the other end was implacable. "I'm sorry, sir. The system shows the appointment was scheduled for 2:15 p.m. The doctor's notes indicate he had to leave for a prior engagement at 2:45 p.m. Since you were admitted to the hospital and did not formally check out of our office before 2:45 p.m., the system automatically generated a missed appointment fee. It's office policy." "A prior engagement?" I repeated, the phrase sparking a terrible, dark connection in my mind. "Yes, sir." The doctor had personal plans. Personal plans. The same phrase Julian had used. And then it hit me. Dr. Evans and Julian Ethelred. They were in the same country club. I'd seen them playing golf together in charity tournaments. They were friends. A sick, horrifying picture began to form. Dr. Evans had squeezed me in. He'd been impatient, needing to get to his personal plans. Had he complained to Julian about the inconvenient patient who'd ruined his schedule? Had they shared a laugh about the over-anxious executive with his personal matters? The missed appointment fee wasn't just a billing error. It was a message. A final, petty act of punishment from a man who saw my medical emergency as a personal inconvenience, coordinated with a friend who felt the same way. I paid the bill. I kept the receipt. And I started to dig. I wasn't just an executive at a pharmaceutical company. I was the head of compliance for my division. I knew how to follow a paper trail. I filed a HIPAA request with Dr. Evans' office, requesting a full copy of my medical records from that day. I pulled my phone records, showing the call I made to his office, the duration of my appointment. I got a letter from the hospital confirming my time of admission and the fact that I was transferred via ambulance from Dr. Evans' care. The evidence was damning. The medical records showed his examination, his diagnosis, his order for me to go directly to the ER. The timeline was irrefutable. He had charged me for a missed appointment during the very window of time he was actively treating me for a critical condition. But I didn't stop there. I started looking into Julian. His petty, vindictive nature wasn't just reserved for me. I reached out to old colleagues who'd left under mysterious circumstances. I heard whispers. A former marketing VP who was fired after taking paternity leave. A senior researcher who was demoted after needing surgery for a broken hip. A pattern emerged. Julian Ethelred had a history of retaliating against employees for using their health benefits, for having the audacity to get sick. I compiled it all. The $250 receipt was the centerpiece, but it was surrounded by a constellation of corruption and cruelty. I wrote a formal, detailed report. I didn't send it to HR, HR reported to Julian. I sent it to the State Medical Board, detailing Dr. Evans' unethical billing practice and his questionable judgment in prioritizing personal plans over a patient in clear distress. And then, in a separate, sealed envelope, I sent a copy of the entire dossier, including the evidence of Julian's pattern of behavior, to the chairman of Ethelred Pharmaceuticals' board of directors. A man who valued the company's reputation above all else, and who played golf at a different, more exclusive club. The wait was agonizing. 2 weeks of silence. Then, the news broke internally. Dr. Evans was under investigation by the medical board for fraudulent billing practices. A notice appeared in the newspaper's business section. The same day, Julian Ethelred was suddenly and unexpectedly called to an emergency board meeting. He did not return to his office. By the end of the day, a new company-wide email went out. Subject: Leadership Transition. Effective immediately, Julian Ethelred is stepping down as CEO for personal reasons. The board of directors thanks him for his service. There was no party. No gold watch. He was just gone. The word was that the board, fearing a massive, reputation-destroying lawsuit, had given him a choice: resign quietly and keep his stock options, or be fired for cause and face litigation. Michael Slattery didn't last a week in the new director role under the interim CEO. He was transitioned out. I was offered the job. The real job, with the full salary and authority. I took it. My first act as director of operations was to implement a robust, anonymous, and protected sick leave policy, with strict non-retaliation clauses. My second was to terminate the company's health insurance contract with the network that included Dr. Evans' practice. I sometimes think about that $250 missed appointment fee. It was the cheapest price I've ever paid for a lesson. It taught me that some people, no matter how powerful they seem, are just bullies. And bullies, when you have the receipts, always fall. I didn't just get my promotion. I got my dignity back. And I made sure no one in my company would ever have to choose between their health and their career again.